Oh, familiar. I'm your host, Adrian Rodriguez. Welcome to the first ever episode of HBSA Alumni Spotlight. Further ado, I want to introduce to my first ever guest, John Nava.
Hi, Adrian. How are you doing?
Awesome, man. I'm doing great. Awesome.
Good to hear.
So, John, thank you for being on my show. First
No
ever
problem.
episode. Can you believe it? First ever episode.
I
Oh,
know. Yeah,
gosh.
this is something, it's your baby and you're making it come true.
So, John, just right off the bat, what were the challenges you faced during your college career?
Yeah, challenges. There are plenty of them when you go to college. It's a lot of things, really. First one I encountered was just putting myself out there. It's really hard when you have a whole identity, in high school, and then you go off to college and you have to start fresh. That was one of the biggest challenges for me because I would stay in my room all the time first semester when I lived on campus. And then second semester of my freshman year, I joined HBSA. I went to Info Night. Just like a lot of people, I was very skeptical, like, okay, this is just a student group. How are you this quote unquote familia? How are you different from any other student organization? But luckily I stayed with it and I found, a second home. I found 100 friends right off the bat. And I'd say that was one of the bigger ones. Another one, and I think this is more prevalent in Bauer, was comparing myself. A lot of the time, Bauer students will get in their head about, I need to have an internship or I need to have 2 internships by the time I graduate. Big, lofty goals, which by any means is not bad. But when you kind of go through that culture of needing to be the best and needing to have praise and recognition for the hard work you do, that can send you down a road of comparison. And the quote goes, comparison is the thief of joy. And yeah, I would beat myself up about it, but I still found good opportunities. Even if they weren't big name companies, they were still good experiences. And so I would say to people who are listening and might feel the same way, or maybe they feel they have a different perspective on that, just take every single opportunity you can. And if you don't get everything that you hope for, it's not the end of the world. And it's not the end of your career because you're very young and you have a lot ahead of you.
Totally agree with you, John, on that one. Especially like giving your like best effort in everything you do.
Yeah. It's all you can do.
Now, next question is, what were the lessons you learned from your time at U of H? I know you have a lot of lessons, good and
Yeah,
bad.
I mean, that goes hand in hand with the challenges. So one would be not to compare myself. Another would be just manage your time and your mental health, because it's important that you take care of yourself. A lot of the time you're going day by day in these hectic schedules. Now I assume it's a lot of Zoom meetings, and not even professionals can keep up with that. Professionals who are in Zooms, they had to make the transition to virtual environments. They're not doing so hot either. So if you really you really have to acknowledge what you do on a daily basis, because if you don't, if you just go Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting, assignment to assignment, without any break in between, without any acknowledging, okay, I'm feeling tired today, I just cannot work on this right now. And I know that sometimes is not an option. You can't always take a break, but find the time. Find the time to give it a rest and take care of yourself. Because if you're just starting, you got 4 years ahead of you, 3 years for people who might have an associate's. Um, that's the best lesson I learned, is that you can't do it alone, and you need to focus on yourself.
Definitely. No, John, you just said mental health. Now that's the question I was about to ask you next. Like, how is mental health supported, especially like during college?
It's extremely important. I kind of went into college just blind, or excuse me, not blind, but just not knowing of what was ahead of me. And I think it's important to have that support system, right? Friends are a form of mental health. That's why there's statistics out there that say if you don't have a friend group or you're not in a college group during college, then you're more than likely to drop out. And it's extremely prevalent within the Hispanic and Latinx community. So mental health is what keeps you in college. It's what keeps you motivated. Because if you're not feeling healthy, you know, it's for example, say you have a cold and you can't go to class. It's the same it's the same argument for mental health. If you feel like you can't get out of bed, if you feel like you can't interact with people and you have that social anxiety or that depression, then college is not going to change that unless you take care of yourself, as I was mentioning earlier. And there are a lot of ways to help yourself. There are many resources online. Texas has a free hotline for COVID mental health. If you just look up the resources, if you go to CAPS, I know I found myself at CAPS more than a handful of times, and they have excellent programs. You are paying for these services, these health services, these mental health services, and it's your duty. It's your right to take care of yourself and reach out for those resources. If you find that your support group, if your friends aren't helping you, distance yourself. Find people who will help you and will support you. And when I say support, I don't mean them be your therapist, but I do mean if they're not a positive influence and they don't bring you a positive impact in your life, then that's a sign to search for someone who will support you in your mental health journey. And I think college is where you learn that.
So I agree with John. I know, John, you gotta agree with me on this part with me. I think colleges, university need to do a better job of improving the mental health service on campus, as well like getting students who attend those university and colleges like understand what type of resources they have and how it'll be beneficial for them to use, and
Mhm.
encourage them to use them as well.
Yeah, I think it comes down to limited resources. I know CAPS does a lot to reach out to the university public, to students, but there's only so much time. I think you're right. There does need to be more resources allocated, but you could say about the entire world we live in. And I think we're entering that state of, okay, mental health is actually a health issue, right? And it's not just the university that needs to step up. So I would like to agree with you on that for sure.
Now, John, you're a recent college grad, so how is the transition from college to the real world?
Yeah, so the real world, it's weird because in college you're like, okay, how much different can it be? And for me personally, and in my experience, since I graduated during COVID, it was it was kind of like nothing changed. I don't know. That's just how I feel about it, because last semester of senior year, it's COVID, and then COVID remained the same. It remained a threat as I graduated. And so it wasn't really the transition from college to real world. It was more like college to uh, real health issue that everyone's dealing with. So, and it kind of, I don't want to get like too philosophical about this, but it kind of felt like I was transitioning with the world. And I think that is a good way to think about graduating college. You are not alone when you graduate. You have a cohort, you have a class, and it's not just at University of Houston. It's everyone that graduates college at the same time, whether that be engineering school, people at Yale. If you graduate within the same year, you are moving with the world. And in that way, you're not alone. You have people there who can relate to you, and go through what you go through. And not to mention the people who have graduated before you. You have those people to look at their stories and their journeys. If you're ever feeling doubtful about what comes next, no journey is the same. No graduation story is the same, but that's something that you should embrace if you're feeling unsure about what comes after. And I know I did, right? Especially with COVID. So I think you really just go with the flow. And if you're that type of person to plan out a 5-year plan, that's great. But you can plan a pretty picnic, but you can't predict the weather. Shout out to Andre 3000. And I think 2020 kind of proves that.
Yeah, definitely, John. Man, you should be a guest speaker at a college graduate event. You should pay you a
Thank
lot of money.
Nah, it's not about the money, man. It's not about the money.
All right, John. You're an HBSA alumni. During time at HBSA, what was your involvement with HBSA?
Yeah, so I mean that's what I love talking about. Me and my friends who were on the same board together, and I still play video games with, to keep in touch during the pandemic. We always talk about it, and my involvement starts in spring 2017. As I mentioned, I was a freshman and I was eager yet kind of skeptical of HBSA, but I ended up being one of the top new members, and I won that scholarship. And I won membership director, or I earned the membership director position. And yeah, it was great. I loved being an officer. I know for officers now it's a different experience, but back then it was really fun because I felt the change coming within HBSA. It used to be for upperclassmen, and I know you know a little bit about this. You were around then too, and it was like shifting more towards the freshmen and sophomores, because we wanted HBSA to be this kind of powerhouse of, okay, look at all this talent that's coming in, and we're helping the Latinx community. So yeah, it just felt great, and I had a great board, a great group of peers to help me do the best job I could. And I love that semester. And then the following year, fall 2018, that's when I ran for president, and I was elected. No one else ran against me, but I like to say that my presentation was really good, and people would have voted for me anyways, but I digress. Yeah, and that experience was great too, because I got to learn not only about myself, but about other people, and how important it is to listen, how important it was to communicate clearly. And not to mention, it's just a great feeling when you go to Info Night, you meet these new people, and you get to introduce them to HBSA. You say, look at all these people who have gotten internships. This is the fun convention trip we go to. Yeah, it's just it was a great experience, and I wish I could relive it, but all I can do is relive it with you on this podcast.
John, being an officer as myself, yeah, this is so far has been a great experience. Most importantly, just to improve myself and growing as a leader along the way, and learn a little bit more about myself. But most importantly, being on sport, it's just a bond and the friendship. The friendship just created with 12 other people that will last a lifetime.
They do. Yeah, those relationships, they go far.
No, John, during time you say you got a lot of great memories.
Yes,
I
definitely.
mean, I can go on forever at certain events, But John, I'm sure this is the hardest for you. Just to pick one. Your number one. What is your number one favorite HBSA memory?
Oh, yep, that's a difficult one. And I can say a lot of things, probably not appropriate for the podcast, but all my alumni, you know those type of nights. But I'm gonna go with any alpha convention. It's such a bummer, and I don't want to rub it in anyone's faces who never got to go to a convention, but those conventions were fun. I guess one in particular, it's on the website. If you go on to HBSA, or is it Bauer? What's the website URL?
Let me see. I can remember the moment.
Go on
That's for another
HBSA's
time.
website.
Yeah.
Basically, go on HBSA's website, and you'll find a video to one of our conventions that my administrative director, when I was president, Rafael Alfaro, he put together this great video of us at the airport, and then we reached Vegas, and oh my gosh, it's so fun when people that you know very well, and you go on a trip with them to this place where you're going to meet a bunch of other Latinx professionals, and everyone's in suits and stuff. So that deepens the bond even more. You make all these great memories, and then you all have this similar goal of, okay, we're going to network. And I sometimes hate the word networking because it feels so like corporate America to me, but networking in the good way of like, I've met people who go to UCF. I've met people from New Jersey. I've met people from all over the country who are doing the same thing. And yes, it's a competition on one hand, but on the other, you grow your group of people that you know on this planet, and nothing can take that away. And other than that, it's just really fun to travel. I wish I could be traveling more during this time, but I'm glad that I got to have those opportunities. And I'm hoping that people who did miss the Alpha convention in person, you still get a lot of opportunity and resources from the virtual ones. It's all what you make of it, really. And I think you guys who are doing it know that better than anyone, because you have to be more resourceful and you have to connect better. Plain and simple, you have to connect better rather than if you were doing it in person. So my hat's off to you for that one.
Now, John, you do a lot of great things, but where are you now?
Yes. So I am currently in the 13th cohort of Talent Path, which is this company. It's a division of Genuent, who's a staffing or contracting IT company. And so I'm being trained for the next 9 weeks in stuff like SQL, Tableau, those type of technologies. And yeah, just brushing up on my IT skills, things that I learned in college as an MIS major. And hopefully I get placed in somewhere that I can start my career with. And other than that, I've also started freelancing with graphic design. I'm mostly focused on the streetwear market and the fashion industry. So if you or anyone you know has a streetwear brand or an Instagram like that you want to share with me, I'm sure Adrian can put my contact info in the description. I have a website, navamakesart.com, which I'm going to be redoing very soon. So you might see a new version of that. And then lastly, I'm still working with HBSA on a t-shirt for this semester. I hope y'all go crazy for it. I hope it's something that you will wear outside of events. Yeah, that's basically it. I hope y'all like it.
Oh, they will, John. They will. Now, John, this is the last but most important question. What is your message to the members?
Dang, the big one, the big finale. It's a lot of things, we covered a lot of things that you should do, or I wouldn't say should. Should is a word that you should take out of your vocabulary. That's the first thing. You don't have to do anything. And what I mean by that is you don't have to fix anything about you. You are completely valid in the work that you do and everything you have done. Okay. There are a lot of things that us as humans, we want to improve on. and we want to change about ourselves. But it's important to remember you have value as a human being by default, right? We can do great things, but you are great by yourself, just by existing. And that goes with everything I said, like, don't compare yourself, focus on your mental health. If you take anything from this, it's that take care of yourself and be grateful of the opportunities you do have, because you still do pay tuition to this college, that you deserve a great output from this education. And there are people who will say you don't need a college education to be successful. And while that may be true, you're still here and you can get a lot out of it. And don't doubt that. And don't doubt yourself. Don't doubt yourself for a minute. So that's my spiel. If you want to talk more with me or about anything that I have talked about in this podcast, feel free to reach out to me on my Instagram, my website. I have a contact page for any projects. And yeah, Adrian, thank you so much for inviting me.
John, thank you to be my first ever guest. Think about it, first ever guest on the HBSA Alumni Spotlight. And that's wow.
It's a wow. It's a wow moment right here. Adrian, man, yeah, from the moment I met you to now, it's been a great ride.
Yeah, it really is. Well, that's it, everybody. Familia, that is it for the first ever episode of HBSA Alumni Spotlight. Thank you, John, for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
That's all, folks. Stay tuned for the next episode.
Peace.